I stared at the screen, my hands shaking as I refreshed the page for the 100th time. The number was still the same, $58.24. It wasn't just money, it was my son's future. I had saved every penny for his surgery. And then, without warning, it was gone. Stolen. By my own sister. I'm Jenna, and I spent 2 years working around the clock doing everything for my son, Luca. But when my sister showed up claiming she needed spiritual healing, she didn't just steal my trust. She took the money that would have given my son a chance to walk again. You won't believe what happened next. Before we jump into the story, if you don't mind, let me know where you're from by leaving a comment below. That way, I can send a special hello your way. Now go ahead, grab yourself a warm cup of water and find a comfy spot. It's time to begin the story. Hard work is supposed to mean something. That's what I kept telling myself as I stood in line at the pharmacy, scanning my badge for the night shift discount I barely had time to use. 2 years of night shifts, of heating canned soup at 3 a.m. and promising my son we were almost there. 2 years of walking past the surgery jar on our kitchen counter and whispering, "Soon, baby." And still, all it really bought me was fatigue, a dozen missed birthdays, and most recently, a spa keychain sitting crooked on the microwave like a joke I didn't get. The air in Asheville had that crisp, cold bite that told you Thanksgiving was only days away. The houses on our block had already gone overboard, turkeys inflating on lawns beside blinking Christmas icicles. I pulled into our driveway just as the sun dipped behind the ridge. The porch light flickered on, casting a glow over the handmade sign taped to our front window. Luca had drawn it with his best red marker, 8 days to Hero Heart Day. Next to it, he'd sketched himself in a cape, one arm raised like Superman. I unlocked the front door and was hit by the familiar scent of home. Fabric softener, something citrusy from the hand soap, and a faint trace of whatever leftovers I forgot to throw out. Inside, it was organized chaos. Clipboards on the counter, mail in stacks, a corkboard cluttered with school reminders and Post-its, and the calendar, Luca's calendar. Every square had a red X except the last 8. Those he'd left blank on purpose, waiting for something better than a red X to celebrate. "Mom," he called from the living room. He came running, or rather, the closest thing to running that his legs would let him do. He clutched his stuffed raccoon, the one he named Jet when he was 3. I knelt to meet him. His cheeks were flushed, and his glasses slid a little on his nose. "Hey, Flash," I said, brushing his hair back. "Did you practice your power poses today?" He grinned. "Twice. Jet did one, too." I kissed his forehead. "Good. I brought applesauce and your favorite crackers." "Yay, you remembered the circle ones." That's the thing about kids. They measure love in small things. Crackers shaped like moons. A sticker on a lunchbox. The tone of your voice when you say their name. I was unpacking the groceries when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to swipe. A familiar voice came through, lighter than I remembered, but still unmistakable. "Hey, Jenna, it's me. I'm at the Greyhound station downtown. Asheville just felt right, you know?" It took me a second to register it was Elaine, my younger sister. I hadn't seen her in over a year. Not since Sedona. Not since she said she needed to disconnect to realign. "I need a reset," she said. "And honestly, I thought maybe you could use some sacred sister time too." I stood there, holding a box of macaroni, staring at the Heart Fund jar. It sat on the shelf like always, half full of rolled up bills and folded checks from odd jobs and miracle overtime. "This is a bad time, Lane," I said quietly. "I get that, I do. But the mountains..." They called me back. Asheville's where it all started, remember? Of course I remembered. I also remembered how divine timing had a habit of showing up when Elaine needed something and disappearing when anyone else did. Still, something in her voice sounded fragile, maybe just cracked enough that I caved. When I pulled up to the station, she was sitting cross-legged on a bench, oversized scarf wrapped around her shoulders like a shawl. Her suitcase had stickers of mandalas and moons, and she was sipping tea from a reusable mason jar like she was above to-go cups, but her face, pale, thinner than I remembered, eyes a little too wide, looked real, human, tired. We didn't hug. She just smiled and said, "You look strong, like centered." "Thanks," I replied. "You look like you've been somewhere." She laughed. "I have, but I think this is where I'm meant to land. Temporarily, of course, until I finish healing." I didn't ask what she was healing from. She always had an answer, usually 3. That night, I made chicken pot pie, a real one, crust from scratch, carrots soft, broth thick and buttery. Elaine passed. "I'm on a ginger cleanse," she said. "Gut work is the root of emotional truth." Luca didn't mind. He talked her ear off about school, about the countdown, about how he'd race me after the surgery. She smiled like it touched her, but when her eyes drifted to the kitchen counter, they landed on the jar. Luca's Heart Fund. It read in red paint. Next to it, a photo of him with a crooked grin and a hospital bracelet from 2 years ago. Elaine tilted her head. "That's a lot of pressure to put on a child." I said nothing, just picked up the plates. After Luca went to bed, I walked back into the kitchen. The lights were low, and the house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Elaine was at the table. My laptop was open in front of her. She looked up quickly and snapped it shut, her hand a little too fast. "Just checking my email," she said, too breezy. "Needed to confirm a chakra circle I might attend next week." I didn't say anything, just nodded. But something in her tone, it didn't sit right, and neither did the jar. The number didn't change when I refreshed the page, $58.24. It just sat there, solid and defiant. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. I simply blinked once, twice, and waited for the mistake to correct itself. But it didn't. I knew that account like I knew Luca's bedtime stories, like I knew the exact rhythm of the beep when the hospital doors opened for trauma intake. I had watched every dollar enter that fund like a hawk, every overtime shift, every donation link a coworker shared, every bit of birthday money from distant relatives. Over $120,000, now $58.24. The cursor blinked with annoying indifference. I clicked over to the transaction history, unsure if I was hoping to find an error or the truth. The log scrolled on, rows of withdrawals, each just under 10,000 spaced out over weeks. Some were marked as transfers, others disguised as purchases. My eyes caught a familiar email on the confirmation trail, bravery.heal@gmail.com. It took a moment, a beat, and then a flash of heat crawled up my neck. Elaine. Bray was her old dance studio name. She used it for everything from Pinterest boards to chakra bookings. I stared at it as if doing so would change the letters, but they held. I heard the sound of cartoons from the living room. Luca's soft giggles floated down the hall. The scent of cinnamon and lavender hung thick in the air from the diffuser Elaine had placed on the bookshelf. I stood from the table slowly, the chair scraping the hardwood floor louder than I intended. In the hallway, I paused by the guest room. Elaine's door was open just a crack. I saw a flicker of her shadow moving inside. Her soft humming followed me as I walked past and into Luca's room. He looked up with a sleepy smile, pajama pants twisted at the ankle, raccoon plush nestled against his cheek. "Mom," he said, sitting up. "Look what Auntie Elaine gave me." He held out a small keychain in the shape of a silver lotus, engraved with words too tiny for him to read. "She said, it's where she healed," he added proudly. "She said, I'm her little light." I took it gently from his hand and turned it over. Sedona Serenity Spa. A slow, cold breath settled into my chest. I kissed his forehead, told him I'd be right back, then stepped into the kitchen, keychain still in my palm. I opened Instagram and searched Elaine's account. There it was. Her story was still live. First slide, a plush white robe folded neatly over a massage table. Second, a mirror selfie, her face glowing, wine glass in hand. Third, the spa logo captioned, "Sometimes healing requires a selfish leap." My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't tap away. I didn't respond. I just stared, letting it carve itself into my brain. I walked back into the kitchen and found her there, perched on a bar stool, cross-legged like a perched cat. Her phone was upside down on the counter. She was stirring her matcha latte with a bamboo whisk, the way she did when she wanted to perform tranquility. The diffuser puffed again beside her. Clarity missed. "Morning," she chirped, not looking up. I poured myself a glass of water and took a measured sip. "You transferred money from Luca's fund." No rising pitch, no accusation, just facts. Elaine blinked, then laughed, this breathy, breezy laugh like I had pointed out a typo in her horoscope. "Transfer," she said, shaking her head. "Such a capitalist word." I didn't move. It was $120,000. She waved a hand as if brushing away smoke. "I needed the retreat, Jenna. You've seen me. I was spiraling. It wasn't malicious." "He can't walk right, Elaine." She tilted her head and her tone turned syrupy. "Kids bounce back. They're more resilient than we give them credit for. Maybe this timeline you're obsessed with is stressing you out more than it's helping him." I gripped the counter with both hands. "The timeline exists because the surgeon is booked for months. We waited 2 years to afford this." Elaine sighed like I was the one exhausting her. "You put so much pressure on yourself, on him. What if you just accepted him the way he is? Not every child needs fixing." It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them, like she was reading from a mindfulness app that never asked who got hurt. I didn't respond. I just turned away, placed the keychain on the table, and walked toward the hallway. As I reached for my phone, I saw the latest text from Maya. "She's not even sorry," I typed. "She thinks it's spiritual alignment." I stared at the message for a long moment, then hit send. I didn't cry. I documented. That's how it started. Rage is loud, shouting in parking lots, slamming doors, sobbing into couch cushions. But proof is quiet, methodical. It prints clean. It saves forever. I didn't need volume. I needed evidence. 2 weeks had passed since I saw Elaine's name on those transfers. She still moved around my house like a purring cat, lighting incense, flipping her essential oil cards, talking about alignment like it was a currency she alone understood. But I'd stopped listening. I was busy printing bank records. It was a rainy Thursday in mid-December, and the kitchen smelled faintly of burnt toast and citrus cleaner. My table was covered in sticky notes, Excel printouts, transaction logs, and screenshots. Every receipt I could pull, I did. Bank statements, timestamps, her Instagram captions, even a photo of the keychain Luca said she gave him. I'd used highlighters. Blue for financial data, yellow for personal connections, pink for photos I could verify had been taken during the theft timeline. Dad used to say, "Family doesn't keep score." Funny, I was suddenly great at Excel. I didn't just collect proof, I organized it. I renamed folders. I created subfolders. I logged every late-night Venmo ping, every email confirmation she left open on my laptop. I saved one Instagram video she posted at the spa, the one with her robe draped just so, wine glass lifted like a trophy, captioned, "Sometimes choosing yourself looks selfish to those still stuck in survival mode." I titled that file, "Delusion in White." I wasn't above a little poetic naming. Maya had come over twice that week. She brought her laptop, 2 iced coffees, and a sense of righteous fury that matched my own. She sat cross-legged on my living room rug with Luca's old crayons pushed aside and her sleeves rolled up. "You want these files searchable?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "You want backups in cloud, zip, and hard drive?" "Yes." "You want her to burn?" I looked at her. "I want the truth to hold up in court." She nodded and clicked. Later that night, I called my parents. I sat in my bedroom with the door shut and my computer screen dimmed, speakerphone on and heart steady. "Mom," I said, "Elaine stole from Luca, from his fund, from her own nephew. There was a pause, the kind that carries tea-sipping and subtle judgment. "Oh, honey," she said, "don't say it like that." She took money that was going toward a medical procedure. I have the bank records. "She made a mistake," Mom said. "Don't ruin your relationship over money." "It's not about money. It's about betrayal. She stole from a child." "Well, she's your sister. Sisters are forever. Money isn't." My jaw tightened. Sisters don't empty accounts meant for life-altering surgery. "She's been going through so much," she replied softly, as if she'd forgotten who she was talking to. "The breakup, the burnout, that retreat helped her. Maybe this can be a bridge, not a wall." I didn't speak. I hit record on my phone. "Don't do anything rash, Jenna," she added. "Let's not make this ugly." I tapped the screen to end the call before her tone turned into a hymn. I'd heard it before. "Forgive quickly. Be the bigger person. Keep the peace." Funny how those rules only applied when I was the one bleeding. Not long after, a woman named Rhonda Ingersoll, one of Mom's old church friends, posted on Facebook, "Praying for Jenna. Hope the work stress eases soon." Work stress. That's what they were calling it. I took a screenshot. Luca began to sense it, maybe not in words, but in the way I lingered longer when tucking him in, or how the diffuser oils smelled different now. One afternoon, he came up to me while I was sorting receipts and asked, "Why is the surgery taking longer, Mommy?" I blinked at him. "What do you mean?" He pointed to the fridge, to the calendar where he'd been crossing off days. There were no more X's, just a blank square where surgery day used to be written in big red marker. "Did the doctor forget me?" he asked. My breath caught. I knelt and hugged him, hard. "No, baby, the doctor didn't forget. Grown-ups just make mistakes sometimes. But I'm fixing it." I promise he didn't say anything, just rested his head on my shoulder. That night, I renamed the folder on my desktop. It had been called Evidence. I changed it to Luca's Justice. And then I found a voice memo I'd recorded weeks ago, Luca whispering into my phone during a late-night cuddle. "Mom," he said in that soft, hopeful way kids do when they think the future is waiting on them, "will I get to run soon?" I saved it. Then I copied it. Then I backed it up in 3 different places. Later that evening, while Maya was cross-checking timestamps, her phone buzzed. She looked at it and laughed. "She's throwing a healing party." I looked up from the table. "She made a flyer," Maya said, handing me the phone. "It says, 'New moon, new money, new me. It's at your house.'" I blinked. "You're kidding." Maya grinned. "Want an invite?" The air was damp, soft with that particular kind of North Carolina rain that doesn't pour so much as settle. Mist rolled in along the edges of the street, curling around porch railings and mailbox posts like smoke that had forgotten how to rise. I'd taken Luca to the park that Saturday. He wore his red hoodie, the one with the rocket ship decal half peeled at the edge. He didn't run, not quite, but he walked faster than he used to, and sometimes that was enough. I watched him trace the perimeter of the mulch pit, arms stretched like wings, while I sipped a coffee gone lukewarm. My phone buzzed once, a text from Maya. "She's live," it read. Then, "Airbnb in Black Mountain." Full performance mode. I didn't answer. Not right away. I'd seen the invitation, typed in flowing script and posted to her story like a wedding announcement. "Sacred closing of the healing portal. Join us for ritual tea, sisterhood, and soft release." Release of what? I wasn't sure. Morality? Accountability? Maya had gone, phone in hand, shoulder wrapped in a recycled sari scarf she borrowed just for the occasion. She called it field work, like she was embedded in some kind of suburban cult documentary. She knew how to blend in. I trusted her with the story. While Luca asked for another granola bar, Maya walked into a rented cabin filled with people who spoke in affirmations and thought accountability was a wound of the ego. Elaine stood at the front, barefoot on a woven mat, arms outstretched like she was blessing the floorboards. She wore linen layered in creams and golds, a crown of dried herbs in her hair, and lip gloss shimmering under soft fairy lights. The diffuser hissed beside her, releasing something sweet and citrusy. She opened with breathwork, Maya later texted, then said you're clinging to control, framed the surgery as your way of resisting his wholeness. I stared at the message and swallowed hard. Back at the park, Luca was lining up pine cones in rows. She says you're scared of his spirit evolving without surgery, that fixing is a form of domination. Another message, another inch of breath leaving my body. Then came the video. It arrived with no warning, just a 30-second clip sent from Maya's camera roll. The sound quality was decent, enough. Elaine raised a glass filled with something golden and frothy, turmeric fizz with a sprig of lavender floating like a garnish from a dream. To alignment, she said, smiling wide. To transformation. To my sister's savings account. Funding peace, one breath at a time. Laughter followed. Glasses clinked. Someone shouted, "Amen to that!" I watched it twice. Then a third time. Not one person looked confused. Not one face flinched. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't scream. I saved the clip to my hard drive, then again to the cloud, then made a third copy for the flash drive I kept in my desk drawer, labeled just in case. That night, after Luca fell asleep hugging Jet, his stuffed raccoon, I opened Instagram. I didn't post a paragraph. I didn't tag her. I didn't shout. I simply uploaded the video, just 10 seconds of it. The toast, the laugh, the golden fizz, and beneath it, one line in white font on a black background. This is what was bought with my son's surgery fund. No hashtags, no names. The silence that followed was louder than applause. It wasn't viral. Not exactly. Not yet. But it didn't need to be. It crept. One repost, then another. A few quiet messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Is this who I think it is? I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk? Then a single comment surfaced, from a user I didn't know. Wait, did she just admit that on video? It got a few likes, then a few more, then more than the video itself. Elaine's account went quiet by morning. No news stories, no breathy videos, no slow pour tea posts. Nothing. I sat at my kitchen table, sipping strong coffee, watching the rain pattern itself across the window like Morse code. Maya's text came through at noon. We hit something. Now we wait. She was barefoot. That's what I remember most. Standing on my porch in January, her toes pink from the cold, wearing a loose-knit sweater that hung off one shoulder and leggings too thin for the wind. "You ruined my future," she screamed. Number she torched mine. I just turned on the lights. Elaine's mascara had run, either from crying or just lack of sleep, but it streaked like guilt across her cheekbones. Her voice cracked at the edges, already brittle before she said another word. That job was everything. I was going to pay you back with that money. You don't get it. I stayed behind the screen door, one hand resting on the handle, the other holding my phone, recording quietly. I didn't even send the video, I said, my voice calm. You toasted it. You posted it. You told the world who you were. You're jealous, she hissed, of my platform, of my growth. You hate that people listen to me. Behind me, somewhere in the kitchen, Luca's footsteps froze. I could feel his small presence just out of sight. Keep your voice down, I said, quieter now. Elaine stepped closer. The porch boards creaked beneath her. You think you're the good one, the serious one, the martyr, but you never healed. You buried everything and called it grit. You stole from your nephew. Her face twitched. It wasn't for me. I was spiraling. I needed alignment. You said I could use the Wi-Fi. I didn't flinch. Not to empty a medical fund. She moved as if to press against the screen door. I stepped outside and shut it behind me with a soft click. We stood face to face in the pale winter sunlight. You think this is justice? She spat. You think you're right just because you have spreadsheets and screenshots? No, I said. I'm right because of what you did. She lunged forward, not to hit me but to startle. Her hand grazed the railing and she slipped slightly, catching herself with a frustrated grunt. Inside, I heard Luca call out, "Mom?" I didn't look away from her. "Time to leave." "You called the cops, didn't you?" she whispered, venom under the breath. Typical. You always run to someone bigger. "No," I said. "I call people who believe in consequences." That's when I dialed. The police didn't arrive with sirens or dramatics. 2 officers, polite but firm. She didn't resist, but she made sure to throw one final look over her shoulder as she walked down the steps. "Watch your back," she said. I didn't reply. I went inside and closed the door. Luca stood by the fridge, holding the stick figure drawing he'd made last week. Us in a park, him running. His eyes were wide. "Everything okay?" he asked. I knelt beside him. "Yes, baby, just noisy grown-up stuff." That night, Maya sent me a voice memo she'd dug up from one of Elaine's old group chats, some retreat WhatsApp archive that hadn't been locked properly. "It's not like I stole from her," Elaine's voice said casually. "It was her kids' money, not hers. Big difference." I listened 3 times. Then I saved it. Then I sent it to my lawyer. Subject line, Exhibit B, conscious intent. The next day, the mail arrived. A thick envelope in my mother's handwriting. Inside, a $300 gift card to Sedona Serenity Spa, and a note. "Let's all let go of this and move forward as a family. Love, Mom and Dad." I laughed, out loud but without humor. I took a photo and texted it to Maya. Her response came fast. "That's not healing, that's hush money." I agreed. That evening, after folding laundry and helping Luca glue foam planets onto his science fair poster, I opened my laptop. I renamed the folder once again, Luca's Justice, Final. Then I drafted the email, short, precise, to Corinne Reyes, Russell Reyes. Subject: formal notification, civil action imminent body. You have 3 days to initiate repayment in full. If I do not receive confirmation, I will proceed with legal channels. This is your opportunity to correct course quietly before it becomes public record. I didn't beg. I didn't explain. I just hit send. No response. A few hours later, my inbox pinged. 1 new email from my dad's account. No subject, just a heart emoji. That was it. A single heart. I stared at it for a long time. Then I moved the email into a folder labeled Family Responses, Passive. The next morning, I met with my attorney. Papers signed. Files shared. Suit filed. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt necessary. Some things are no longer about hurt. They're about boundary. Jenna Reyes vs. Elaine Reyes. Civil recovery of stolen assets. The title alone felt like steel in my spine. This wasn't about a fight. It was about the line. And she had crossed it. She didn't show up to court. But the check did. It arrived in a sealed envelope handed to the court clerk by a courier who didn't know anything about the case. Just a delivery. No frills, no confrontation, just money. Certified, accounted for, final. $118,450. Tucked inside the envelope was a note, written in familiar cursive. My mother's. We should have stopped her years ago. Sorry it took this. No signature, no apology really. Just a sentence with weight but no warmth. The judge reviewed the documents, confirmed the amount, and declared the matter resolved. A civil win by default. Elaine didn't contest, didn't even respond, just disappeared into silence like smoke vanishing through floorboards. Maya squeezed my hand in the courtroom. I nodded, but I didn't smile. This wasn't a victory. This was gravity, pulling everything down to earth, sharp and still. 2 weeks later, we stood in a hospital hallway. Luca's name was on the clipboard. The nurse double-checked his ID bracelet. I double-checked my breath. He looked up at me, eyes wide but steady. Will I be faster than Jason now? I knelt to meet his gaze. Baby, you're already braver. The surgery lasted longer than expected, but in the good way. The kind of longer that means the team took their time, adjusted with precision, saw opportunities they hadn't expected. The surgeon emerged from the OR in scrubs, eyes tired but smiling. "It went well," he said. "Better than we hoped." I felt everything and nothing at once. Maya caught me in a hug before I could fall into it. When I finally saw Luca again, he was groggy but awake. Wires and monitors, a soft beeping that matched the rhythm of something bigger than relief. "Mom," he whispered, dry lips curling up at the corners. "Can I run now?" "Soon," I told him. "Soon, baby." We spent the next few weeks buried in healing, physical therapy, pillow forts, smoothies with names like Galactic Banana. Our world got smaller so his could grow. One morning in April, the sun showed up early. The grass in the park looked greener than usual. Soccer goalposts had been reinstalled. Kids in cleats zigzagged through drills. And Luca, my Luca, stood at the edge of the field with his new sneakers laced tight and a folded blue card in my back pocket. He walked, then jogged. Then, without warning, he ran. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fast, but it was his. His knees didn't falter, his stride didn't twist. He ran like the world had finally agreed to let him. He turned to look at me once, smiling, wide and sure. "Mom, try to catch me." I didn't move. I didn't need to. "Run, baby," I whispered. "Run so the past can't catch you." Later that evening, after Luca had fallen asleep with one sock half off and Jet the raccoon tucked under his chin, I found a small envelope in the mailbox. No return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside, $2,000 in cash, a silver bracelet, broken at the clasp, and a note. "It's not enough, but it's real." Elaine's handwriting. I didn't cry, I didn't curse. I placed the money in the envelope marked Luca's future. I dropped the bracelet into the drawer where I kept other broken things that used to mean something, and I left the note on the windowsill. Not forgiveness, just evidence. Because some people run from the truth. But mine? He runs toward it, with every beat of a heart that finally got its chance. Watching my son run, really run, for the first time, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still, like the world had finally caught up with the truth I'd been carrying all along. Sometimes love doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply stands firm, gathers the facts, and waits for justice to arrive, quietly but surely. And in a world that often asks mothers to stay silent for the sake of peace, I learned that protecting your child isn't betrayal, it's devotion. If this story touched something in you, I'd love to hear what it reminded you of. Drop a comment, share a moment, or just take a breath with me. We all carry stories that deserve to be heard.